Jewish world does not need any introduction, but Vodo, I will just tell you that Rav Doron Paris is the executive chairman of the Mizrahi World Movement, a very, very important position in the Jewish world. And the World Zionist Organization elections are taking place now, as you know very well. Everyone keeps talking about it. If you haven't voted, please vote. Vote for whoever you want, as long as it's Mizrahi and Slate 5. And you will be doing a great deal for Israel and for Torah in Israel. Rav Perez was Rav in South Africa for 15 years. Most importantly, what has to be said about Rav Doron Perez is that he and his family have become symbols of heroism and symbols of Emunah since October 7th. We actually turn to them for inspiration, and they provide it just by being who they are. There's much more to say about his introduction, but I really want him to start speaking. It is a kavod to introduce to you Rav Doron Perez.
Thank you so much, Rabbi Turk. It's a tremendous zchut for me to be at Yeshiva University. The last time I was here was at the Chag HaSmicha, and it was such a kavod, to be able to be present at the Chag HaSmicha, to be able to have the opportunity to share some words was a tremendous zchut, and for aspiring young Jewish leaders who were finishing their Smicha studies, some were finished, some finishing, it was a tremendous zchut. And I know some of you here are Smicha students, and I hope all of you, wherever you find yourselves, firstly, as many of you go into Chinuch and Rabbanos as possible, to have Klei Kodesh, especially coming out of this institution, is I saw as I was walking in different statements outside the building, and one of them caught my eye as I walked outside the Gluck building before I came in. What Rabbi Jonathan Sachs said, something I always believed. He said it's Yeshiva University is the most important Jewish institution in the Jewish diaspora. I always felt that when I was in South Africa, a community rock for many years. I affiliated to Yeshiva University. I made sure that our whole campus was affiliated to Yeshiva University. We brought our grade 12s to Yanman, what I think it's called Yanman. We brought our teachers the degrees through Azrieli. We brought out the Rosh Yeshiva, and we brought out the presidents. And I always felt a very, very deep kinship to Yeshiva University. And also when I went to Israel and became the World Mizrahi, we made sure to find every possible way to work together with YU. And when I'll speak about, after the sikha that I want to give, a little about these elections, Yeshiva University, together with all the other major, Torah, Israel supporting organizations, OU and Mizrahi and Amit and Bnei Akiva and RCA and National Council of Israel and so many others, all came to have been part of a coalition of Torah-driven organizations with a deep love of Torah, land, people, and state of Israel. And Rav Shechter, all of the years, the Rosh Yeshiva, along with the four of Soloveitchik, who's the president of Mizrahi, but Rav Shechter and the presidents of Yeshiva University have always been the leaders of our slate, because that's who we are, and that's what we represent. And everything we see, of course, through the eyes of Torah. And I just want to share with you one halacha that I really struggled with, and I want to just share my struggles with you. And I just want to share through the prism of halacha and through the prism of having to make a brocha, which I really found. It's a tremendous zchut. Thank you, Rosh Yeshiva. Thank you. I was just saying before the Rosh Yeshiva joined us, it's how always Rav Shechter and the Rosh Yeshiva and the presidents of Yeshiva University have always been our degel. You know, the messenger is the message. The message is the message. And for us having Yeshiva University, Bichlal, and in Rav Soloveitchik's day, and now Zolzgesundheit Mavir Stream, Rav Shechter Shlita, the presidents of Yeshiva University, always as for us the flag bearers of what we feel Torah Judaism is all about. It's an unbelievable swit of Rav Shechter that Rav Shechter has come to the shir, to my talk. Thank you, Rav Shechter. I'm sorry that the Rav had cancelled the shir. So at the very least I can do is try and share something. I did Dvar Torah, but thank you so much, Rav Hershel. And I always say Rav Shechter. I'll say a lot less than Chatzi Shivcho, but for me Rav Shechter has always been one of the reasons I wear tchelet, is because when I heard that Rav Shechter, I always wanted to wear tchelet, but I looked at a lot of my Rebbeim in Israel, not all of them, so I wasn't sure what to do. And for years and years I've been feeling it's something that I want to do. And after my son passed away especially, I felt that the kachol, the chilazon, which was dafka found in the shores of Eretz Yisrael and represents something about the macro vision of Judaism, the Kisei Kavod, looking not only at the Pirtei Mitzvot, but see how they stem from the Kisei Kavod and the abundance of Hashem, you know, from the sea to the sky to the Kisei Kavod. And in my research I saw that I didn't have the sort of learning at Yeshiva University, but on Shavuot last year I decided that I'm going to start wearing a tchelet. It's one of the things that I've taken upon myself for all types of reasons. And always I know whenever Rav Shechter speaks about the Jewish people, Israel, the army, it's not only the words that Rav Shechter teaches, it's the feeling. And so much of being part of the Jewish people is a feeling. And not everybody feels it. I just want to maybe share, it's not what I wanted to say, but I just want to say one thing before I go into this Malach. I want to say that it only dawned on me a few years ago. You know, Chazal have got a lot of definitions for who a Talmid Chacham is and who an Am Haaretz is. It's all types of definitions. There's not one definition. Like everything in Torah. Who's a kofir? Who's considered a kofir? There's lots of definitions. Sometimes it's a kofir in something which seems so small, and sometimes it's a kofir in like the biggest things. I only noticed a few years ago that we talk of one kofir in Pesach, and the kofir in Pesach is not the same as the kofir anywhere else. Who's the kofir in Pesach? Who's the person which is kafar beikar on Pesach? The Rosha. Why is he considered a kofir? Is he kofir in Torah min hashamayim? Is he kofir in Olam Haba? Why is he considered a kofir beikar? And it's especially for Pesach. He's a kofir in Pesach in Yetziat Mitzrayim. Why? He says, "Ma edut v'chukim hamishpatim." All of these laws that Hashem gave to you, lachem v'lo lo, lachem v'lo lo, keivan sheotzi et atzmo min haklal, kafar beikar. He's a kofir in Klal Yisrael. You get some people who kofir in Klal Yisrael. They're not kofir in other things. Thankfully, they're very few. There are very few Jews, but I saw them with my own eyes, both from the extreme progressive left and the religious right, very few who marched with Hamas against Israel. Very, very few. How can people, because of their universalistic values, have no feeling for Klal Yisrael? How can people, because of their religious values, and thankfully very few of them, have no feeling for Klal? You march with the enemies of Israel, they want to destroy the state of Israel. And I realize, you know, there's something called a kofir of Klal Yisrael. It's not a kofir in Torah. It's not a kofir in Or Goyim. And therefore, what do we say to the Rosh of Pesach? What do you say to somebody who feels nothing for the death of Jewish children, feels the same for the death of Egyptian children and Palestinian children? What do you say to somebody who has no feeling for their family? What do you say to them? You're going to give them an yonshir, afatah haketshina, and tell him what? Simple thing. Ilu hayita b'mitzrayim, lo hayita nigal. You're on the wrong side of history. Had you been in Egypt, paining more for Egyptian children than for your own family, you would have been lost in the plague of darkness. How dark can you be? I feel for all children. No, somebody who says I love all people doesn't love anybody. Which parent will come along and say, I love all children the same as my children? Then there's something wrong with you. You don't feel any more responsibility for your own children. Love is the most intimate, differential thing in the world. Which man says I love all women equally? Which woman says I love all men? Absolutely. Then you don't know what love is. You don't know what love is. Arias is called chesed, ki chesedu. I love everybody. No, you don't. It's a perverse love. It's a love of Lot, offering his daughters. Lot felt no difference between his daughters and the strangers. What perverse chesed is this? You feel nothing for your own family? Nothing? And I can't explain it to you. I can't explain it to you. When people say we love everybody equally, no, you don't. You just have no feeling. Maybe you do, but you have no feeling of what love really is. Love is the most differential, intimate thing that there is. And that's why Kodesh Baruch Hu says you can't love any other gods. I'm zealous about love for me, not for me. It's not going to do it for you. But you love all the gods and you don't know what Elokut is. It's the most zealous thing for one. Shema Yisrael Hashem Echad. Two? No, not even two. Nothing. Nothing. No shniut. Why? Because if you love more than one, then you know what love is. What commitment is. And just like we love one God, and there is only one God, and that's our whole world in Metzius, and so too with one spouse and with our family. And if you don't have differentiality in love, then you don't know what love is. Afatah Kate Shinav. Had you been there, you wouldn't have been redeemed. You feel nothing for Klal Yisrael. You should feel for Egyptian children. We're going to spill blood. But you first feel for your own. And if you don't, I can't explain it to you. I can't explain it to you because you get kofrim in Klal Yisrael. And Pesach is about Klal Yisrael. And it's about a feeling. Rav Kook starts and he talks about in Orot Eretz Yisrael that the feeling for the Jewish people, it starts with a feeling. And it's something you can't always explain. And when people lose that sense that they're part of something, it's hard to explain it. And I want to just share with you something that I've had to deal with this year. It was very, very difficult for me. It's a Gemara that was always, for me, thankfully not practical. And this year it became practical. It was very, very difficult for me to try and understand how. I'm just going to take you on a short, brief mahalach on a Gemara and a Mishnah you all know, and I just really struggled with it. When our son died, he was taken captive, and we hoped and prayed that he was alive. And on Chet Adar, we were told that he was deceased, and we had to do Levaya. We're lucky, in inverted commas, that we had blood to bury. Most of the, he's still one of the 59 hostages. Most of the 39, 35 are deceased. They don't have anything to bury. And I've seen this, how many families in a Nisayon that when they've got nowhere to go. We're lucky. We have a grave. His body's not yet there, and we don't know where it is. Somewhere in Gaza, probably held by Islamic Jihad. But we're lucky we've got a grave. My wife and I went to the grave in Har Herzl. His blood-drenched army uniform is there, and some blood found in the tank. We're lucky we had something to bury, and we hope and pray to bring him for burial, and all the 35 and all those like and L'chaim, all the hostages home soon, B'ezrat Hashem. But we had to make the bracha. And I've learned this Gemara many times, and I had a dilemma. And I just want to share with you something you all know, but to try to see a machloket rishonim in this and what it meant for me and means for me. Chayav Adam, source number one, which you all know, Chayav Adam, levarech al hara'a kashem shemarech al tova. Gemara Masechet Brachot. About two shaylas. Why am I chayav to make a bracha on the bad? Why? God, you take my son, and now I need to bless you for it? Really? Chayav Adam? Chayav Adam? Why? Aren't there something called Birkat HaMitzvot? Birkat HaShevach Hanenim? God, I have to mishabeach you for taking my child? Really? Chayav Adam? God demands of every Jew to say a brocha on Soros? Why am I chayav? What's a brocha? And to add, so to speak, insult to injury, I'm just saying to be dramatic, as part of the Havamina. Kashem, really? Kashem shemavarech, really? Just as I make a brocha on the birth of my son, now you're telling me I have to make a brocha to bury him? Kashem? What's the kashem? What is this kashem? Just like I did the have to do heal. The two couldn't be more different. What do you mean kashem? It's the furthest thing rationally. Kashem, of course, there. You blessed us. We make a bracha. Here, it's so, and even if we know that I called it tovah, And obviously everything Hashem does for the Tova, we don't feel that. And that's why the bracha, by the way, firstly, the Mishnah is going to say, what is this Mishnah? It's not the same bracha. We don't make Hatova Meitiv. Nachon? What's the bracha we make? Baruch? Firstly, it's not Kashem. So I don't know what the Mishnah means. The bracha we make on Tzoros is a totally different bracha. Dayan Haemet. So what do you mean Kashem? What do you mean Kashem? It's not Kashem. It's so different. And furthermore, if you look at source number 3, I'll come back to source number 2. What do we say? The Gemara Masechet Pesachim says, "Vaya Hashem lamelech al kol haaretz bayom hahu yeh Hashem echad u'shmo echad." Daf Nun Masechet Pesachim. We say this every day in Aleinu, right? The Gemara says, "Atu ha'idna lav echadu." Why is it bayom hahu? God's going to be one. Today is not one. The Gemara says, "Amar Rabbi Acha bar Chanina, lo k'olam hazeh ha'olam haba." העולם הזה, על בשורות טובות אומר ברוך הטוב המיטיב, ועל בשורות רעות אומר ברוך דיין האמת. Meaning, in this world we don't see things clearly. We don't. And therefore on the good we make הטוב המיטיב, and on the painful and the bad and the difficult we make what? דיין האמת. ביום ההוא, on that day when we'll see everything clearly. Okay, but we don't live in ביום ההוא, we live ביום הזה. So in this world, HaKadosh Baruch Hu would never make us make a bracha called Hatov HaMeitiv on the bad, even if it's for the good. And of course it's for the good, because everything Hashem does is for the good. But Hashem wouldn't demand of us to make a bracha on Hatov HaMeitiv. There was a story, well, even before the story. So what does it mean, Kashem Shavarech Allah? You've got to make a bracha on the bad like you do in the good. The Gemara said something, I remember when I learned it, I didn't understand it, and when I had to make the bracha, I understood it even less. The Gemara Masechet Brachot, in Daf Samach says, Ma'ai chayav levarech al hara Kashem Shavarech al tova, il malei Kashem Shavarech al tova, tova meitiv, kach marech al hara tova meitiv, hatnan, al psot tovot omer, hatova meitiv, al psot rot omer, baruch dayan haemet. It's not the same bracha. So what do you mean? That it's the same, Kashem. Amar Rava, lo nitzrucha ele lekabalinhu b'simcha. Wow, when I read this, I did, what is this? HaKadosh Baruch, you take my son, you mechayev me to make a bracha, and then you tell me that I have to do it b'simcha. How can I do that? Firstly, if it was b'simcha, then why am I not making hatov ha'meitiv? Why is it not a tova? Because you yourself acknowledge that in this world we don't see things clearly, and therefore it's not a bracha of simcha. So once you're already saying you have to say Dayan Haemet, why have to do that with simcha? I couldn't understand this Gemara. There's a story about Gedolei Yisrael. There's a story about the Aderet, the father-in-law of Rav Kook, who lost a child, and he was waiting for the burial, and they couldn't find him anywhere. And eventually they came and found him, and he was waiting, and he was trying to make the bracha. They said, "The Rebbe, we have to go to the funeral." And he said, "I'm waiting to get into the same frame of mind to say Dayan Haemet with the same simcha that I did when my son was born." Now maybe the Aderet can do that. I can't do it. I can't do that. And could Kadosh Baruch Hu ask every person, not just Gedolim, Chayav Adam, every one of us is Chayav to make a bracha b'simcha, losing a how can that? Doesn't make sense to me. Then I saw Rashi, and Rashi started helping me to understand what this meant. The Kablinu b'simcha says, Rashi in source number 4, Levarech al midat Quranut belevav shalem. Or Rashi, why is Rashi meshaneh here? Kanire Rashi feels it can't be lekablinu b'simcha, that you've got to say a bracha b'simcha on the bed. Rashi says lekablinu belevav shalem. Oh. Now it feels to me that now it's talking to me. Says Rashi, no. You've got to make a bracha on the bed belevav shalem, in the way that you do on the good, b'simcha. Oh, that I can do. That feels something I can do. God, if you want me to say Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam Dayan Haemet belevav shalem, I can do that. I live in your world. I live in your world. I often say sometimes in life there's a choice to make. Do we create Hashem in our image and bring him into our life wherever we want to? Or did Hashem create us in his image to be brought into his world wherever we should be? Baruch Emet, God, I live in your world. You the Din, you the Dayan, you the Beitim. I live in your world. It's house rules. I can say, B'leivav Shalem, as painful as it is, that I have to make a bracha. But what's a bracha? I just want to share something. I'm going to come to this more. Why is it a bracha? Why do I have to make a bracha in the bed? I have to thank God for the bed. You see, a bracha is not necessarily thanksgiving. Bracha is not necessarily todah. What is a bracha, says the Kada Kemach? The Kada Kemach, Rabbeinu Bachya ben Asher, the author of Rabbeinu Bachya and the Torah, says in his monumental work, Kada Kemach, in Ot Bracha. Sorry, I didn't bring this. This is just more on this sugya, but he says a bracha is, what does God need our brachas? Of course God doesn't need our brachas. Hashem is not blessed because we bless him. Hashem is not mevorach. We do say Baruch Hashem mevorach, but he's first and foremost Baruch Hashem. Why is he Baruch? He's Baruch. He is the one who is blessed, not because of our blessing. Kashem Hashem is Chanun Barachum, he's Baruch. Says Abu Drab. Hashem is Baruch, Hashem is Chanun Barachum, Baruch. Not that we bless him and therefore he's Baruch and Barana. The Muvarach is because we bless him, is Muvarach because we blessed him, not because he needs it, but Hashem is Baruch. And he says the Kada Kemach, what is a bracha? He says Milashon Breicha. Milashon wellsprings. Hashem is, what's the Breicha? It's a spring. When we say Baruch, we're not thanking God. We're thanking God when it comes to things that we thank God for. When it comes to bracha la ra'ah, we're not thanking God. Maybe some people can, but that's not the Chayav Adam. We're acknowledging that God is the source. Hashem, as painful as it is, this came from you. And I acknowledge that it came from you. There's no shniut. There's one God, there's not two. There's not the God of good and the God of bad. That's no longer love of Hashem. God, this came from you. And I acknowledge kashem, that the good comes from you. I acknowledge that so does the bad. And kashem, that I'm able for simcha to thank you with tremendous simcha for the good. I'm able with equal conviction to say b'leivav shalem, that I accept the bad, as painful as it is. You are Baruch. You are the source of everything in the world. Chayav Adam, to acknowledge, and the word, by the way, in Hebrew, lohodot, is not only to thank, it's to acknowledge. God, I acknowledge and validate, and I'm chayav to do it. Especially now, when I've lost a child. This is a moment, Rahman litzlan, of kfirah, of saying, there's no God, or God is an evil God, or God doesn't know what he's doing, or God created the world and disappeared, or the bad can't come from God because then I don't understand God. God, I don't understand. That comes from you. And a person is chayav to accept it, and to say, Da'anei Hashem, you know what you're doing, even if I don't, and even if I don't understand. I can't make a Torah meitiv, and I'm certainly not besimcha, but I can say that you know what you're doing. I saw that the Sefer Chinuch says the same thing in Mitzvah Tafresh on Birkat HaMazon. He goes into the Yesod of Bracha and he says exactly this. It's to meyaches everything to Hashem. I saw that Aruch HaShulchan in Siman Hay says the same thing. That's what a bracha is. It's to meyaches to Hashem, the source of all brachas. And then actually just the other day I opened Chumash and realized the word bracha is mentioned 3 times in the opening parak of the creation. And it's not us blessing Hashem, it's Hashem blessing us. Hashem says to the animals, he's mevarech all of the chayot and says pru uravu. Then he's mevarech Adam and Chava and says pru uravu. And then he's mekadesh HaShabbat. Vayivarech Hashem et yom hashvi'i. Then I noticed that what is Hashem's bracha? It's all about shefa. As the world is about to exponentially grow through the animals, we've got Priya Ravi, Hashem says a bracha. As the Makor of bracha, I'm going to be mashpia, mashefa on you. And he comes to humanity and says, Priya Ravi, you're going to now fill the earth with bracha v'shefa v'ribui. And that's why we come to Shabbos, which is Kihi Makor HaBracha. Shabbos is the Makor HaBracha, what we say in the Chadodim. And therefore, what's the bracha? It's Hashem as the Makor HaBracha, being mashpia of his bracha on the world. And what is, when we make a bracha? We just say, Hashem, everything comes from you. And that's why it says in Masechet Brachot Daf Lamed Hey, that a person who makes a bracha, eats without making a bracha, is kilu gozel, kilu mo'el, it's me'ila. Hashamayim shamayim l'Hashem. And you're going to take something and not. The only skut you have to touch anything in God's world is if you acknowledge that it comes from Him. It's about acknowledgement. God, I live in your world. And when you're able to unlock your custodianship to use it, it's when you say, Hashem, it comes from you. And this made me understand a few more things. Made me understand what the Tur and Shulchan Aruch say. Because the Lashon of the Tur and Shulchan Aruch doesn't make sense. Look at what the Tur says, and the Shulchan Aruch writes this word for word. I'm coming back to the Chayav. Look at this, source number 5. Lashon, just what I've underlined. I've got to end in a few minutes. I'm just going to say. Says the Shulchan Aruch, Ki Hara'ah, the Tur and the Shulchan Aruch, it's the exact same Lashon. But why does a person have to make a bracha of Dayan Haemet? Ki Hara'ah lo Ovdei Hashem. Because the bad for Ovdei Hashem, Hi Tovatam v'Simchatam. Why is the bad they're good? Keivan shemekabel me'ahava ma shegazar alav Hashem, nimtza shekabalat ra'ah zu hu oved Hashem shi simcha. Like such a pilpul. What's the koshi? The Bach says, what's the koshi? We're going to see. What's the koshi of the Tur? Because the Tur can't say that a person has to make a bracha on the bad besimcha, the way you do it on the good. You can't say that. Because what simcha do you feel that your child's passed away? So therefore he says, no, the simcha isn't having to accept that your child has passed away, the simcha. The simcha is knowing that since you are accepting what Hashem did b'levav shalem, and you're accepting what Hashem did as an Eved Hashem, then an Eved Hashem feels simcha that they were able to be an Eved Hashem. And the simcha is in the fact that you're an Eved Hashem, not that your son has passed away. And this whole Lashon says that is what the Tur and the Shulchan Aruch said. The Bach says it, Mefurash, if you go to the next page. What does the Bach say? The Bach in source number 7 brings Rashi, and he says, V'hu lefi she'iyevshar la'adam she'yehei sameach b'ra'ah v'tzarich lefaresh. Dahachiktiv, right? Keshem shehu mevarech. He says mefurash. Keshem shehu mevarech ala tova besimcha, she'az mevarech b'da'at shlema u'b'nefesh chafetza, kach yevarech ala ra'ah b'da'at shlema u'b'nefesh chafetza. And just like in the good, you besimcha, because it's appropriate to feel simcha, so too when it's challenging, on the challenges you say b'da'at shlema u'b'nefesh chafetza. That's the Lashon of the Tur. B'leivav shalem, b'da'at shlema b'nefesh chafetza, Hashem, you know what you're doing. And there's no daylight between me and you on the most painful moment in my life and the most happiest moment to know at that moment that it's from you. One couldn't be more broken and painful, and another one couldn't be more shalem and the simcha, and they both come from you. The Rambam doesn't say this though. And in 3 minutes I want to quickly explain the Rambam. I don't have time to read the whole Rambam in source number 10, the Rambam, and when I learned this Rambam I just couldn't understand it, and I didn't know what to do with it, and that's when I went with Rashi, and I went to the Rashi and the Tur and the Bach. It made more sense to me, but the Rambam says no. The person has to lekabel. I'll just read quickly what the Rambam says. Chayav adam levrech, it says Parashat Mishnayot, lekabel oto b'simcha v'leiv tov v'lichbosh kaso, and he goes on to say it's only the schalim. Everything happens for the good, and you have to accept it. The Rambam says you have to accept the simcha. So everything I explain now is according to Rashi. How do I make a bracha according to the Rambam? I just can't feel simcha in the bracha. The question is, what is simcha? And the Malbim's got a tremendous chidush in simcha. The Malbim says, it's based on the Rajina Rebbe says, an incredible yesod. It's also kashem. The only other time I've seen kashem. Misha nichnas av, Masechet Tanit. What does the Gemara say? Kashem shemisha nichnas av mematim b'simcha, kach misha nichnas adar marbim b'simcha. That's source nabila. Again, kashem. Or the kashem game. What's the kashem? You see what you learn about Simcha? You learn, says the Regina Rebbe, that you always got to be with Simcha. Why? Because you see, it's Mefurash, and just read the words. When you're having a difficult time and you're an Avel for Yerushalayim, what do? My mate, just lower the Simcha. What do you do in the time of Adar and Nisan? Marbim. Siman, that all the time you're in a state of Simcha. Simcha seems not to be an emotion which only fluctuates. It seems to be a state of mind. Ivrit Hashem b'simcha tamim. We're always b'simcha. And you know, says this Mefurash, the Malbim. The Malbim in source, now he says this in a few places, I'm going to share it with you. Says the Malbim incredibly in Yeshayahu on the word, the difference between Sason and Simcha. Look at source number 12a. He says, Hasason hu ha'pula chitzonit she'aseh la'arot simcha. Sason is celebration and joy. You cannot be an Avel and tear clothes and be besason. You can't, it's impossible. You can't be jumping around when you're an Avel. It's totally inappropriate. When you're an Avel, you cannot be besason. But he says you can be besimcha, even as an Avel. How? He says because hasimcha v'hagil heim nafshiyim. He calls it simcha tmidit. Levad shehasimcha hi hasimcha hatmidit v'arutzufa. Oh, it seems that what the Rambam is saying is based on what the Malbim here is saying. What is that? That's something about you can't be besason and in pain of avelot, but you can be besimcha. Because what's besimcha? It's not a fluctuating feeling. Yes, the volume fluctuates, but what's the simcha we always in? What's the simcha we always in? A state of knowing that we live in Hashem's world. When you live in Hashem's world, you can always feel connected. That everything is for the good, even if you don't feel it. And so it's something of it's a tchushat midit, that even when you're in Avel and your world has fallen apart, your world hasn't totally fallen apart because you live in Hashem's world, and His world is always together, even if it's broken for us. And therefore, we can explain according to the Rambam. That you have to make it b'simcha, not because you feel elated and you marvim b'simcha, but you feel that even in this, the Yerei Shamayim has to know it comes from Hashem, and even in a time of pain and avelus, we're not happy and we're not celebrating, but we're connected and we're in Hashem's world, and we b'simchat midit, that we're connected. It's something internal, it's a state of mind, a state of being, and not a celebration. So I just wanted to briefly share that with you, and I have to leave in 2 or 3 minutes, but I just wanted to share that we view everything through the eyes of Torah, and we try, but I find that the deeper one goes in, the more one sees how Torah Judaism is not in any way separated from the deepest challenges of life, but it's so deeply connected. And this bracha is, just you have to understand what a bracha is, and you have to understand what simcha is, and you have to understand what kashem is. And that's something that I feel so pained that I had to learn it through pain, but able, Baruch Hashem, to fulfill what every one of us is commanded to do, which we should never have to, is to have to meyaches to Hashem everything, no matter what. I want to end and say I have to run. I'm going to hand over B'Shulchem to our dream team, maybe Ariel also a few words. So I'm going to hand over to you. I just want to say we are absolutely blessed that we have Marana Rav Shechter and other Rosh Yeshiva and the president of YU and so many people from our community, part of this global effort to make sure that in Israel we have a very, very strong Torah and voice with a love of Medinat Yisrael. And I just want to give my 60-second pitch, and I have to run, and I'm going to walk outside, and I'm sorry I have to run, but I will leave to Ariel because I would love all of you to vote. I just want to let you know that I wrote a sefer a couple of years ago, and I've got a copy of it here for everyone who came. I hope there's enough for everyone. I've left, I got a donor to make some extra copies. It came out 2 years ago. It's a Torah view based on the gra of how anti-Semitism became anti-Zionism, and also Rav Kook's view on Jewish unity. It's the purpose of a Torah view from our perspective on why is there so much opposition to the Jewish state from the world, and what the purpose of a Jewish state is based on Rav Kook. And I'm going to leave some copies for you. I'm also leaving a copy of if you'd like to put some of our son, of this picture of, came back from his Yinachal Ozi's diary. We found in his diary that he wrote that every night, part of his cheshbon nefesh, every night he used to write as an officer that when he went to Poland in grade 11 and experienced for the first time what the Jewish people went through when we had no opportunity to defend ourselves, we didn't have an army and ability to fight back in any significant way. Now that we have a state and ability to fight with it, he said he has to do what he can, and then he wrote these words on a separate line, Im lo ani azmi, if not me, then who? So we made stickers about them, and I just wanted to leave for you here for everyone. I just want to say on one leg, and I'm going to leave it to Ariel Birshotchem, another 5 minutes if Ariel can, so I just have to run to another engagement. It's just to say to you this, I call these elections the best kept secret in the diaspora. And I want to explain it to you al regalachas. The World Zionist Organization controls 100% the most important, impactful Jewish real estate non-profit business in the world. People don't know this. I call it the best kept secret actually. It's called Kakal, Keren Kayemet Israel. I don't know if you know, but Keren Kayemet Israel owns the vast majority of land ownership in Israel. My home in Yad Binyamin is owned by the bank. I mean, I think the bank owns most of it. But it's this Bank Mizrahi, so at least I'm in a partnership with Mizrahi. It means nothing, but anyway, it feels good to know that I don't own my bank, but at least Bank Mizrahi does. I own my house. But 13% of every purchase of property, of the vast majority of property on inhabited land in Israel, belongs, we pay a land tax to Keren Kayemet Israel. Listen to this. The Israeli Knesset doesn't own the land ownership. In 1948, they didn't nationalize the land. They kept it under the World Zionist Organization. And today, the World Zionist Organization owns Keren Kayemet Israel 100% and owns the land. What does that mean? That means that the billions and billions of shekels every single year that they make from all of the land ownership in Israel, which land you develop. By the way, the Knesset's got hundreds of billions of shekels from taxpayers. We're not talking about that. That's people in the Knesset. But they've left billions of dollars of land ownership of the money of this institution, 100% at the discretion of Kakal. And who owns Kakal? Listen to this, the World Zionist Organization. And who owns the World Zionist Organization? Here's the best kept secret of the diaspora. 40% the Knesset, only 40%. 30% American Jews, 30% Jews around the world. So as a person who plays a role in the leadership of World Mizrahi, of the communities around the world, it's a 60% stakeholder in Kakal. And this I call the best kept secret. Nobody told us. And elections until previously, nobody even knew. As more Jews from Chutz La'aretz, such as myself, are getting involved in Israel, we realize, well, this is our jurisdiction. So what these elections are about is who will control these institutions. What proportionate role will we have? Number one, land development. Are we going to use Kakal money for, how about in Gush Etzion, in East Jerusalem, in Ariel and Yudava Shomron? Many people say no, the progressive, nothing over the Green Line. Why? Where's that written? And secondly, just the education budget of Kakal, just the education budget of Kakal is 250 million shekels. Why should that not go to Torah institutions? Why should that not go to support yeshivot and army service and a million one other things? So all we want to do is a very simple thing. You and all of us have got such influence. If you're 18 years and above, we can change the Jewish world if we bring our community of Yeshiva University and Orthodox Union and Mizrahi and Amit and Bechut Lev and all of us together. Our community is absolutely passionate in Torah Judaism and service to the army, to the Jewish people in every possible way, where there's no stira. Baruch Hashem, there's a state called Eretz HaKodesh, which to me it's unbelievable. It's bringing people who haven't until now felt connected to the Zionist movement to be connected. And it doesn't matter if it's Lishma or Lishma, Mitoch Shelo Lishma Ba Lishma. I think it's amazing. But there's a huge outcry in the Haredi world now. Is it the right thing or not the right thing? I think it's, Baruch Hashem, I think the Torah world is growing in Zion. I think it's unbelievable. But we're blessed in this room to have Rebbein, and also we have no Shaila. No Shaila. We don't need something chitzoni to get us involved because we've discovered that there's influence. No, we're there because from the time of the Rav Kook and the Rav Sposhut, that if we can bring Torah Judaism to be mashpia in Eretz Yisrael, at the heart of the state, that's what we do. So I just want to encourage all of you. I have to run everything else for 5 more minutes that people can explain what you can do, how you can vote today, and if you've already voted, how you can bring your parents and your aunties and uncles and everybody you know. If our community comes out in full force, we will have a strong Torah voice of embracing Medinat Yisrael, which is absolutely necessary today, more than ever. And talking to the leaders of Yeshiva University, each one of you is a leader, and each one of you can do so much. So Birshutchem, I'm going to have to run now. Please feel free to take a book afterwards. whether you vote or not, whether you vote for Mizrahi or not, you can have a book that's nothing has Haba Hatalia. You can take everything you want to, and a sticker, but it would really be amazing. If you come out in full force, you can do so much for the Jewish world. If you can ask me for 5 more minutes, I'm going to have to leave. Thank you very much.